All right, I got some really bad news, guys. I got some really bad news. So NBC News says the following. Special report. A large swath of the U.S. currently does not have the basic ground-level immunity necessary to stop the spread of viruses that had once receded into the past. A 6-month NBC News investigation in collaboration with scientists at Stanford University finds. So they go on to say, this investigation gathered massive amounts of data from state governments and archives of public records reaching back years or decades. Here are some of the key findings. Since 2019, 77% of counties and jurisdictions in the U.S. have reported notable declines in childhood vaccination rates. The declines span from less than 1 percentage point to more than 40 percentage points. Vaccine exemptions for school children are rising nationwide. As many as 53% of counties and jurisdictions saw exemption rates more than double from their first year of collecting data to the most recent. Among the states collecting data for the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, 68% of counties and jurisdictions now have immunization rates below 95%. That's the level of herd immunity doctors say is needed to protect against an outbreak. So do you understand what they're saying there? Because of the anti-vaccine bullshit that's been spreading around, now you have a bunch of people who are hesitant to vaccinate their kids. And they're getting exemptions from vaccine mandates in schools. Well, now in 68% of counties, they are below the 95% level of vaccination, which means herd immunity is no longer there, which means old school illnesses and diseases and plagues, including measles, mumps, or rubella, they're going to make a fucking comeback. All because people decided to be anti-science. All because there's a bunch of bullshit anti-science propaganda out there and people fell for it. This is very disturbing. Quote, as childhood vaccination rates fall, we'll see more diseases like measles, Dr. Sean O'Leary, an infectious disease expert with the American Academy of Pediatrics, said about the findings. And we'll see more children, tragically, die from diseases that are essentially entirely preventable. Nowhere are NBC News findings more striking than St. Louis. The rate of children starting kindergarten in the St. Louis area who are fully vaccinated has plummeted from 91.6% during the 2010-2011 school year to 75.9% in 2024-2025. We're just in a waiting phase before measles comes and rocks the state of Missouri, a head nurse at the premier charter school in St. Louis says. More on how we got the story and gathered the data anyway, so they explain more there. But this is, understand something. We're in a new age of anti-intellectualism, anti-science, anti-empiricism, and there are massive, massive consequences as a result of that. Massive consequences as a result of that. And so we already saw this, what was it, a measles outbreak in Texas that happened recently under RFK. We also have him waging a war on vaccines in his own respect, making it so that you can't get the COVID vaccine unless you get like a doctor's prescription for it, and you fit a narrow demographic of people that are like old or have clear pre-existing conditions. It's not like anybody could just get it anymore. They've also, delayed the release of the seasonal flu vaccine. They didn't, do the committee hearings they had to do in order to pick the right one, etc. And so, make no mistake about it, what we're witnessing here is a war on public science. Never mind the fact how many different fucking long-term studies were axed, studies on diabetes and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and RFK and Trump scrapped all of the mRNA research. Well, guess what? mRNA vaccines, they were working on a cancer vaccine that was an mRNA vaccine. They just cut off all the funding for that. No more. No more. And so we were close to, there were some breakthroughs. We were about to get a fucking cancer vaccine. They killed that shit. They killed it. And so when you have that mixed with cutting off all of the medical grants and the research grants and the science grants. You have this thing called brain drain, where all of these immigrants who come here to study at our colleges and universities and do a lot of medical research and scientific research. Well, now we decide to throw a bunch of immigrants in concentration camps. And so all those people who were going to come here going, I'm not fucking going there anymore. I don't want to end up in Alligator Alcatraz or fucking Seacot or Guantanamo Bay. Fuck out of here. And so because of all of that stuff, it's an amalgamation of all the worst things you can imagine. And so guess what? Now we're cooked. Now this country is cooked. Medically, scientifically, when it comes to our research, when it comes to our development. And you also have, because of, the rise of anti-science bullshit, the rise of misinformation online, of course, is a big part of this. Misinformation, disinformation, malinformation online. Now you have a scenario where a lot of people go, I'm just skeptical of vaccines. Okay, well, once you fall below that 95%, 93% line, you're a sitting duck, right? And so people you make it much more likely that there's going to be a measles, mumps, rubella outbreak. We're going to have old school plagues that we all thought were gonzo are going to make a fucking comeback. I mean, then you want to talk about first world problems. Imagine having the ability to effectively eradicate all these diseases through vaccination, but people are choosing not to do that. They're choosing not to do that, all because of some horseshit that they heard, because the head of HHS drinks methylene blue, a fucking blue dye that's used as like a fucking fish tank cleaner that he thinks fixes his mitochondria. He's on human growth hormone and testosterone. He takes a peptide that makes his skin darker. He pops nicotine in and talks about it like it's fucking healthy, right? This is a guy who's running science in this country, and a bunch of people have bullshit, dumbass science beliefs. And that's what's happened with the collapse of belief in institutions, which is partly merited. People have now taken that skepticism and they've gone one step further into cynicism. And so they believe no institution's ever telling the truth, right? And people went from being skeptical of big pharma because of the price gouging and the profit motive. And many people have taken an extra step into just being anti-modern medicine because they're skeptical of big pharma. Well, no, the problem with big pharma is the profit motive. The reality is you got to fucking nationalize it. That's what you got to do. You got to take out, the ability to make money from it. But that doesn't mean that fucking antibiotics don't work. They work. That doesn't mean that vaccines don't work. They work. And so here we are. By the way, I did want to show you one more thing related to this story too. Look at this. SARS-CoV-2 is linked to an unusually high level of indiscriminate killing of T cells reminiscent of measles, which can cause immune amnesia by depleting memory B cells, leaving people vulnerable to pathogens that they were previously immune to. So, stop and think about it. Now we have vaccine rates plummeting. We're below herd immunity for all these different things. So it's only a matter of time until we get these outbreaks of things that were basically fucking eradicated because we live in an anti-science, anti-intellectual period, right? So that's going to happen. And also at the same time, our immune systems are already fucked because COVID basically wiped our immune systems clean, where, a lot of things that we previously had immunity to are basically our immune systems forgot how to fight off these things. I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but certainly I've experienced it. Our family has experienced it, that post-COVID, like every year would be like everybody would get sick at least 3 or 4 times, right? The kids would get sick at school. They bring something home. Something would rip through the house. It would happen 3 or 4 times. Why? Because it really does seem like COVID hurt people's immune systems, wiped the slate clean, and made it so that now your body forgets how to fight off things that it knew how to fight off. So you got to start from scratch and rebuild it back up. And so, between lower vaccination rates and our immune systems being fucked up because of COVID, I mean, this is, shit. We might as well be back in a totally primitive era now, where we're looking at fucking witch doctors trying to help us and nobody knows anything about how to improve health. So just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. And the fact that you got RFK Jr. leading HHS at this moment is like the most terrifying thing I could imagine. He's low-key one of the most dangerous people in this regime, and that is saying something. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.